You carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
Imagine this scenario. It's 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. Parents just dropped their kids at school. The parking lots are clearing out. Coffee shops are packed. The morning commute is winding down. Nobody is thinking about what just got activated overnight. 14 hours earlier, an encrypted signal, nobody could fully decode, crossed through relay stations in 4 countries. By dawn, 3 men in 3 different American cities stopped going to work. They're not calling in sick. They're not running errands. They're moving. By mid-morning, the calls start coming in. A crowded food court in Houston, a church parking lot in Memphis, a bus terminal in Denver. Ordinary Tuesday, ordinary Americans, extraordinary carnage. This is what it looks like when intelligence escalates from being a threat assessment to a body count. Tonight, we're covering exactly how foreign conflict crosses the wire and becomes your problem on a weekday morning when you thought the biggest decision of the day was what to order for lunch. The Iranian, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS proxy warfare networks are the primary enemy system driving the domestic threat environment we're tracking right now. This is not a rogue ideology. It is a coordinated state-sponsored doctrine executed through Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, IRGC, Quds Force operatives, criminal cartel partners, and radicalized lone wolves activated by online propaganda pipelines. None of them can beat us on a conventional battlefield. So they've imported the war into American neighborhoods through embedded assets, proxy violence, and psychological operations designed to fracture civilian confidence. This is what they want, not a military surrender, but a society so shaken by internal attacks that the political will to sustain operations overseas collapses. The encrypted transmission intercepted by U.S. authorities in the days following the killing of the Ayatollah was not noise. It was activation language sent to covert recipients who do not use the internet or cell networks to receive orders. Welcome to Survival Dispatch News. It's March 20th, 26. I'm Chris Heaven, the CEO of Survival Dispatch. Joining me tonight are combat wounded Green Beret Randy Nance, 26-year CIA case officer Jeff MD, and 24-year CBP special agent and current ICE officer JJ Carroll. And tonight we're going deep on a threat environment that is no longer theoretical. Bottom line up front, we've got soft targets everywhere. Escalating homeland threat environment as global conflict spills into domestic security, and American families are squarely in the crosshairs of asymmetric warfare aimed directly at civilian society rather than military forces. Foreign conflicts trigger domestic threats. Sleeper networks, radicalized lone actors, and extremist propaganda pipelines are positioning for coordinated attacks across 25 or more American cities in a scenario that will dwarf September 11th, 2001 if it's not stopped. So what we're covering tonight is the institutional breakdown in the DHS gap, sleeper network activation signals, the propaganda to violence pipeline, the civilian security response posture, and what every American family needs to do right now. So jumping directly into segment number 1, the DHS gap. When the defense architecture fails, the partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security is not an administrative inconvenience. It's a structural hole in America's domestic threat detection and response architecture at the exact moment the threat level is spiking to levels not seen since before 9/11 1.0. FBI Director Kash Patel placed counterterrorism teams on high alert, mobilized JTTF nationwide, but the CI-12 counterintelligence unit specifically tasked with tracking Iranian threats was gutted days before Operation Epic Fury launched, creating a direct gap in the agencies most needed right now. The convergence of a partially defunded DHS, decimated DOJ National Security Division staffing, and an active Iranian, Al-Qaeda, ISIS proxy warfare networks with encrypted activation communications and circulation is not a coincidence. It's a stress test on American security architecture that hostile actors are watching in real time. So as per usual, I'm going to go straight to Jeff with the first question. Jeff, with DHS partially shut down and CI12 gutted, how do state and local fusion centers compensate for the federal intelligence gap when a coordinated multi-city attack is already in motion?
That's a really good question. It's, it's almost like, how do you respond when FEMA's out of business? Well, you do what you would do anyway. The thing about the fusion centers and all that, if they work right, they warn you ahead of time, but they rarely work right. And so the response to an attack is going to be local. I don't care what anybody tells you about the federal government. It's the initial response is always going to be local. FBI HRT is not going to be hanging out in your city waiting for something to happen. Delta Force is not going to be hanging out at the Motel 6 waiting for something to happen. When something does happen, it's going to be local police, your sheriffs, your state police. And if you're lucky and your governor's not a moron, like say Tim Walz, your National Guard, but your National Guard cannot be called up in a second. They can issue the orders in a second. But the National Guard, these guys have lives. They're at other jobs. They're doing stuff. They're not sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring. So the initial response is always going to be local. With the fusion centers not working properly because of this stupid Democrat shutdown, they won't know necessarily. They won't know what they're dealing with right away, but they'll figure it out when people start shooting at them. Sad to say.
Yeah, that's brutal. So, of course, we have JJ Carroll with us every Friday night. Good to see you, JJ. I'm going to come to you second because I know you have to leave early. Without getting into anything operational at ICE, but what specific functions does DHS perform in a soft target attack scenario that no other agency can replicate? And more importantly, what's genuinely at risk right now without the DHS running at full capacity?
Well, I think when you have guys that can't work overtime, or you have personnel that's not working, like TSA. I mean, we laugh at TSA sometimes, go, come on, look at them. But no, they're screening, right? So now you don't have enough workers. So now things start piling up. Same thing with DHS. You're not, quote, funding or paying the workers that are supposed to be there. This creates gaps. And of all the times to be having gaps in our security right now is when we're at war. I mean, we're at war. I mean, people seem to forget that because it's not on our shore, but we're at war. And then people need to realize too, as you know, Chris, is we've let all these people in from the Middle East into our country the last 4 years of Joe Biden's term. The enemy's in our house, inside of our house. I watched the interview. I'm sure you guys did too, with Joe Kent and Tucker Carlson. Joe Kent said, "Well, I don't know if there's going to be like terror cells. I think those are things in the past, and it's more going to be lone wolves." I don't know if I really honestly agree with that. I don't. And to think that these people don't have patience and that there are not cells here, I think that's absurd, actually, because he followed up. Joe Kent followed up in that they know of at least 18,000 terrorists. And I laughed at that number. That's absurd. But he's admitting that through his intelligence community, they've already identified 18,000 terrorists that crossed the border. And even he said, but that is a drop in the bucket because we have no idea how many people came terrorist related through the open borders for 4 years. So when you strip away DHS, the funding, think of what the Democrats are doing. Do you know what they're fighting? I don't know if you guys know this. Do you know what the hang up is? Angus King He's the independent Congress senator from Maine, I believe. Please fact check me on that. He came out yesterday and said the issue that we're having that's hanging us up is they want ICE officers to stop wearing masks. That's why they won't fund it. That's why the Democrats are allowing our nation to be left vulnerable. That's unbelievable.
Well, that's because everybody first, other than Americans, right?
Yes.
So I want to just bring something up quickly before I come to you, Randy. So JJ, you specifically mentioned TSA. Did y'all catch this today? That every single airport right now is just crushed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in Atlanta, Hartfield, Jackson, which is crazy busy at the best of times. Check this out.
Behind the camera this morning with me, Roger, give them this perspective. It's unbelievable. Thousands and thousands of travelers just trying to get through the main TSA checkpoint. They have wrapped this line through the baggage claim area over here by Delta. And I got us behind the camera.
So another airport earlier today, and I saw a whole bunch of different airport footages this morning, but one of them, somebody shot a video of everybody in line inside that was going through all the lanes, and then kept it on the line, walked out the door where all the ground transportation was, kept filming, and walked all the way past the end of where there was, a bridge over top of the departure area, and all the way down into a parking lot, and people were lined up. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of people that weren't even in the building trying to get through TSA security. I mean, it's just insanity. But Randy, coming to you, so this, FBI Director Patel, pardon me, so he put his teams on high alert. But is high alert even meaningful when the institutional knowledge that they had, they walked them out the door just before Operation Epic Fury? I mean, he fired most of CI-12. These are the guys who are the experts in this.
Well, I don't know. I don't think any of us know what they're doing. And as we've talked about on the show many times about the FBI, and even since Patel, everybody had high hopes when this administration came in, they named that guy. Although I always had, I don't know, something I just couldn't put my finger on. But the reality is he's still there now. And what does this actually mean, though? Okay, they're on high alert. Now they're on high alert. We're just now on high alert. But what does that actually mean? And what what powers does that open up? Or are you putting more people out on the street, or more people combing cameras, more people going through the internet and doing online stuff? What does that actually mean? And, we've been saying this for at least 2 years, and you couldn't be on high alert the whole time. But, I think it's come down to the point. I don't think anybody believes anything Patel says anymore. And, I don't know where you go from there.
I don't either, but we got to address just a comment here before I come to you, Jeff, with the next one. So Gene says, you're a fool if you think ICE as they function now are not a violent gang of thugs assaulting U.S. citizens. So JJ can't comment on obviously being active, and Jeff's getting a lot out of it. You have to be like refrigerator temperature IQ level to make a comment like that. When we've been infiltrated by tens of millions of shitbags from third world shitholes that we have to get out of our country. It's our country. It's not their country. And if they want to resist, then they're going to get what they deserve, full stop. So you have to be a complete moron to type a comment like this. I mean, I don't know. There's nothing else really to say because that's about all the time that you deserve. I don't know if any of you want to comment.
The only baby boomer in this group,
Gen X
I'm
rule.
not the baby boom, but I'm a baby boomer. I'm proud to say, when I was a kid, if you screwed around with the cops, you met Mr. Nightstick. And that was just the way it was. And if you went home with a lump on your forehead that was dramatically shaped like a nightstick, your parents would say, "What the hell were you doing and what were you thinking?" You did not screw with law enforcement. If you didn't screw with law enforcement, they didn't screw with you. They weren't just running around beating people up for the hell of it. But I tell you what, if there was trouble, first thing they did was start swinging the nightstick, and the trouble went away. It's like the old Texas Rangers thing: one riot, one ranger. But these people, they're thugs. No, the people they're going after are thugs, and when they resist, they get the ass whooping they deserve.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Sorry, JJ, didn't mean to step on your toes.
No. I think that's great.
Because you're a yonker. You're a youngster.
Well, I was just thinking though, Jeff. What happened when the nightstick didn't work though, Jeff?
They shot.
That's right. That's right. And people said the same thing. They said the same thing. They didn't start trying to defend the criminal because he got shot dead.
Yeah, exactly. JJ, I don't know if you can comment or not.
I'll comment this way, that my time in the United States Border Patrol and now in the position I'm in now, you have the most patriotic guys that are doing a job that I can tell you with this because I did it and I'm doing it. 99.9% of the males out in the world today in America can never do this job, could never do it. No, you don't have the stones to do it. You don't have the courage to do it. And these guys are putting their life on the line. And I mean that. That's not hyperbole. Listen, I am telling you, from the time that I retired in 2021, the end of 2021, to I was out 4.5 years until I got back in. I was telling a defensive tactics instructor today, I cannot even begin to quantify and qualify the level of violence that is now in our society against law enforcement. It is, to me, shocking. It is shocking what has happened because of the Ferguson effect, the George Floyd effect, the Black Lives Matter, the defund the police, the law enforcement people, the men and women that are actually out there keeping you safe from savages are the ones that are demonized. It is absolutely appalling. And I'm telling your audience this, the level of violence, the absolute level of threat of physical violence and death against law enforcement, state and local, all the way to the federal, is unacceptable in our society. And the level and the probability of law enforcement officers getting killed and injured is so high. It's almost as if when one of us gets shot or killed or hurt, we all go, of course it is. This is crazy. It is crazy what we have become as a nation. We are morally disgusting as a nation, the way that we treat our law enforcement. And what do we do? What does these law enforcement officers do? They still go into the battle to keep you safe, because all of these illegal aliens that you're hoping and trying to protect, you're protecting rapists and murderers, pedophiles, and gang members. Dear God, what planet are you on? And we have to take a side in this. And if you don't take a side in this, this is how societies collapse. We're on the precipice. Donald Trump even said it. We're on the precipice of going good or bad. You make the choice. My belief is we've already made the decision. We're going bad. There is no way, no one's going to convince me anything otherwise. I'm not blackpilling. This is just statistically provable that we have gone down the wrong path.
Yeah, and there's no arguing that, JJ. And I'm proud to say you made it about 20 minutes this time on Survival Dispatch News before your blood pressure skyrocketed. Congrats! I mean, that's a new record.
He's got a good point though, because if this was Rome in 410, these people would be cheering on the Visigoths, saying, "Please come sack the city."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Not realizing that they're part of the city that's about to get sacked. These people are morons.
And that's an understatement. So William, loyal follower of ours, we love this guy. He's got the comment of the night here. Check this out, JJ. ICE using masks. All they need to do is use the system against the system. ICE is using masks because they're scared of COVID. Case closed. Fun.
Or the flu or any other sickness.
Yeah, why are you wearing a mask? COVID.
COVID. Yeah. COVID.
Stay 6 feet away from me or you're under arrest.
Hey, JJ, we've got a super loyal guy. This guy's unbelievable. He's a guardian angel. He goes by the handle Father Duck. He's from just a couple counties over from me. He has been sending out package after package after package of survival and prepping gear to our audience. He hooked Randy up with a bunch of expensive radio equipment. The guy's truly a guardian angel. So he sends a package, and my assumption is that he wanted me to take the stuff and give it away, which I'm happy to do, right? So I start giving the stuff away, and he sends me a message, and he says, that stuff was for you. And one of the things he sent me, JJ, was a 511 watch that doesn't measure my heart rate or my blood pressure, all that stuff. Because normally it's going off nonstop through the show, but getting back on track and coming back to you, Jeff. So, and you know what, actually, let's close out the first segment with the same question to all of you, just to get your feel of this. How do you reckon, whether it be IRGC, Al-Qaeda, or ISIS, how do you think they read this DHS shutdown from a strategic perspective? Is this degraded DHS posture at this time, is that a trigger itself for activation, Jeff?
I don't know, because the DHS that is most impacted by this is TSA, Coast Guard. These guys, it's not affecting ICE. I mean, ICE is already funded, thank God. And to be honest, the ones who probably are going to be more disruptive to a sleeper cell is ICE. The sleeper cell's getting ready to activate, and then ICE knocks on the door to come arrest their ass for visa overstay or not having a visa at all. The TSA shutdown, definitely there is some impact on national security. Don't get me wrong, but the Democrats did it in such a way that they know it was going to be an inconvenience to the American public. And that's the whole TSA thing. And if we turned airport security back over to, dare we say, the airports, this wouldn't be an issue. Because let's be honest, there's nothing TSA does that a private security company hired by an airport couldn't do if they were held to a certain standard. And there was mandatory, liaison stuff. And what that would do was take one more arrow out of the Democrats' quiver. They can shut down the government over the Coast Guard, but when the Navy is out sinking, narco boats, the Coast Guard does search and rescue. Most of what they do is helping citizens. They do. Don't get me wrong. They do drug interdiction. I get that. But if the Navy is doing drug interdiction kinetically, the Coast Guard can go, okay, we'll just rescue fishermen whose motors died on their boats, which is a great thing, and that needs to be done. But the two shouldn't be confused.
Yeah, for sure. Randy, what's your take on the terrorists, all these different groups, their perception of us as a target with DHS in degraded mode?
Well, I mean, it's like anybody would, right? If you see your enemy making a mistake, what's the advice, right? Don't get in his way. So, I think Jeff's exactly right. I mean, we can go back to, I just hope people remember this, right? And know where to place the blame, because if we go back to when was the end of what's his name? What's old fat boy in Jersey? That was the governor. Christie.
Chris Christie.
Chris Christie. Remember when he became ungovernor? I know that's not a word. I'm making fun of him. But you remember when that happened, right? You remember what he did? Because of the lanes at the tollway. He shut some of those lanes down. It backed it up. Caused people all this traffic, pissed them off. He didn't get elected the next time. So, this is one of those things we need to remember, because these are people playing with, they're playing with our lives, no different than the way they're playing with JJ's lives and the people at ICE and all in law enforcement right now, in fact. And, we should get tired of it and do something about it.
Amen to that. Amen. So, JJ, I know you've got stuff to say on this, so just take it away.
No, I just think that we're rudderless as a nation, and we're rudderless because all of our leaders, and I mean all of them, are compromised in some way. Take the SAVE Act, for God's sake. Why is John Thune not pushing this through? Why are we being held to a gentleman's agreement that goes back, I don't even know how many decades, for the Senate? It's not in our Constitution, the filibuster. It's not. What are we doing? Why are we playing? We're trying to have a conversation with the evil Democrats that want to kill us, that have tried to and have killed us. We're trying to engage in discussions, and they're in full-on kinetic war with us. But our Republicans, I know people don't want to hear this or have a discussion about it. There has to be a third party, or there has to be a revolution in this country. I don't believe we're going to see a civil war, but I think that we could have a spiritual, and I think a spiritual revolution would be at the center of it. We have to change. Our country is no longer a republic. When you take the SAVE Act, like I said, 85% of Americans across the board, conservative, independents, and leftists, want voter ID, and they won't pass it. Why? Because Senator Tuberville from Alabama stated it openly on a podcast. They don't want voter registration ID, voter ID, et cetera, because multiple people on the left and the right have stolen elections. That's a bold statement, and yet nothing gets done. Nothing. Our government, our nation is rudderless, and it's sad, and we are in dire straits, I believe. And do you count? Where's Trump? Where's America first? Where's Trump? Where is he? Honestly, we're in a war. I don't even hear from him. Why are we in this war? America's falling apart. You can't even drive down our interstates without hitting giant potholes. Our airports aren't funded, but we're spending $1 billion a day bombing Iran. Think of that. You have to stand in a line, and you have to get to the airport, they say, at least 3 hours prior to your flight. 3 hours, maybe you'll get on your flight. And we can't fund that, but we can spend $1 billion a day bombing a nation that did not threaten us. Think of that.
Yeah, so I mean, you need to take a few more black pills, JJ. The fact of the matter is we haven't had legitimate elections since 1912, Woodrow Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
It's all political theater. It's all theater. Yep. And let me just share this with you. So I've got TV stuff streaming over here throughout the day, just so there's some background noise listening to it. I mentioned Jeff and Randy a couple nights ago that this so-called debate came up between Keir Starmer and somebody else in the British Parliament, right? Mm-hmm. And you can see he's holding a piece of paper and he's reading off of it. No sooner than he stopped speaking, the other person is now reading off a piece of paper with the perfect rebuttal to what he said. And then when they stop speaking, he's back to his piece of paper with the perfect rebuttal to what they said. It's horrible, horrible politics. Mm-hmm. It's kabuki theater, for crying out loud. The funny thing is, earlier today, there was something going on, and these clowns were going back and forth in the Senate. And I turned around and I looked at it, and it was the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. You get somebody from the Republicans making a statement, then you got somebody from the Democrats reading this perfect response to it. It's theater. It's bullshit. We do not have real politics in this country. We're fucked. We have political theater. That's it. So let's pivot into segment number 2, sleeper network activation, what the encrypted signal possibly means. So U.S. authorities intercepted an encrypted transmission believed to have originated in Iran. Well, it also originated in Milan, Italy, by the way, sent across multiple countries using non-internet, non-cellular channels, so shortwave HF, high frequencies, that intelligence analysts assess as a possible activation signal for pre-positioned sleeper assets operating in the West. Here's the thing with shortwave HF, by the way. If you have two people talking back and forth, somebody with a modicum of skill can triangulate them inside of 5 minutes. The NSA can do it in a matter of seconds, and I'm telling you that because I've seen it firsthand from an NSA specialist. And it blew my mind how quickly they could identify both parties talking. But here's the thing. With what Iran did, the message that was sent out, the encoded message in Farsi, it was not encrypted, it was encoded. It was a bunch of numbers being read off. There's a big difference between being encoded and being encrypted. Encrypted means that there would be nothing intelligible whatsoever. Encoded means that they're using words and numbers that you have to have basically a legend to decode it, sort of thing. Not that it's any easier to crack, but they're not the same things. But when the signal's only going one way, it's being broadcast out, and it was broadcast out, by the way, in two different frequencies. So 7.910 megahertz and 7.832 megahertz. Here's the ironic thing is both of those areas are outside of where normal ham radio operators would even listen to, let alone transmit on. Those are the frequencies that were used during World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War for all nations to send out, these encoded messages to their people. But when it's only going one direction and nobody's replying back to it, you can't identify where any of those people are. And shortwave HF is the only thing that allows worldwide communication, as long as you have the right antennas and enough power, with the exception of things that our military has. But private individuals, it's as good as it gets. It's the Walking Dead solution. We have no idea how many people around the world had the legend, were able to decode what it was and what the instructions possibly were. So back to the brief, Iran's asymmetric warfare playbook doesn't require direct command and control in real time like Al-Qaeda's 9/11 2.0 plan. The cells are pre-briefed, pre-positioned, and require only a trigger to begin executing against targets they've already surveilled in American cities, malls, churches, and transit hubs. President Trump publicly confirmed he's been briefed on Iranian sleeper cell presence inside the United States, acknowledging that a significant number of those assets entered through Biden's open border policy and are currently under surveillance. But under surveillance and neutralized are not the same thing. So JJ, I'm going to come back to JJ because he has a limited amount of time tonight, but we've had Hezbollah embedded in America since late 80s, early 90s. They've been, joined at the hip with Sinaloa cartel and other cartels since then. The real number is much higher than 18,000 as far as the jihadi. And this being a CBP special agent. I mean, you had guys calling you after you couldn't take it anymore saying, hey, man, I've got this special interest alien. What are my choices? You told them straight up. They could do what you did and retire, or they could follow their orders, or they could not follow their orders and get fired. And they didn't have many choices. And so from firsthand experience that these guys are in the country. What went through your head, JJ, when Donald Trump said, yes, we know that we have sleeper cells in America and we know where they are and we're watching them? That is just not true. Is it because he's being advised poorly? Does he actually believe that? Do you think he's not a stupid man? I was gobsmacked when he made that comment.
There's no way that we have any idea who's here. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you the evidence. Christopher Wray, under oath in front of the Senate, stated, they asked him, how many terrorists are in America? And he almost chuckled and he says, I have no idea. He said, we have absolutely no idea. He said, he turned to Mayorkas and said, you need to ask him. The borders, they've come through the border. We cannot track them. He went in front of the sheriff's convention, might have been in 2023, the national sheriff convention had like 3,000 sheriffs, and said there are more red lines right now happening in America than there were before 9/11. The FBI they don't have enough agents. So let's play this out. Let's say that we agree with the federal government. The federal government admitted to arresting and releasing over 200,000 special interest aliens into America. Let's just play devil's advocate. 50% of them were just Muhammad. He just loves Muhammad, the prophet, and loves Islam, and they're here to assimilate into America. Okay, that still leaves 100,000 terrorists. Who's watching those 100,000 terrorists? Are you telling me that an FBI agent is watching 1,000 terrorists, 100 terrorists, 50 terrorists, 10 terrorists? He's tracking 10 people. Do you know what kind of manpower it takes to track one person and just to follow them? And then you can't keep your eyes off them because they might blow something up at any given time. Do you see how absurd this is? This is why I tell people and wrote books about and did documentaries. We're the most vulnerable we've ever been in America right now. Now, not in the wars that we've been in. No, right now, because the enemy of America is in America. It's living next door to you. It's in enclaves, and they're waiting to be activated. And you can mock me. You can say, oh, that's crazy. No, it's not me. I'm not the one saying it. I'm just quoting the people that are in charge that have intimate knowledge about this situation have come out in front of Congress under oath stating the exact same damn thing that we're saying today. So who do we believe? Do you stick your head in the sand and think it's never going to happen? Or do you believe the people that are actually involved in it telling you, yeah, I don't even know how many people there are? That's what Christopher Wray said. I have no idea. I have no idea. They're just trying to corral what they do know. Think of that. They can't even monitor the amount of people that they know. It's insane. We're the most vulnerable we've ever been, and they did it on purpose because they want to destroy the United States of America. This is the global reset. And I think when we start talking about these things, we have to be honest and say, this is intentional, this is strategic, and it is planned. And guess what? They don't have to do, the people that hate America, the leftists and the rhinos, they don't have to do anything. They just have to let it play out, Chris. That's it. Just let it play out.
Would you be surprised, any of the three of you, would you be surprised that there's approximately 38,000 employees in the FBI and 10,000 of them are field agents or special agents? So you've got about 10,000 that would physically be tracking this stuff.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. I worked in the FBI office spaces, not for the FBI, but in their spaces for years. And I know a lot of FBI analysts, but it's any government agency is like that. The CIA, I cannot say how many people work at the CIA. I don't know right now. I can't tell you what it was when I left because it's still classified. And I can tell you how many operations officers there were. Well, I can't tell you that either. But I guarantee you this, there was a lot more dog than there was tail. Or in this case, I should say more tail than dog.
Gotcha.
In the CIA, it was case officers were the pointy end of the spear. They were the ones that went out and recruited spies and stole secrets and conducted covert operations. But for everyone in the field, there's probably 5 back at headquarters analyzing it. And I used to complain constantly, who had these analysts who pontificate, and I would say, the only thing you know about this issue or this person is what I've told you, because I'm the only one in the CIA who's in contact with him. So don't tell me you know what's going on. You don't know shit.
Well, and Chris, can I say
yeah, go
this?
ahead.
Because, and I have to go, but I want to make this point, and because it's and it goes right in dovetail what Jeff's saying. You're looking at the numbers of law enforcement, and you're like, okay, we're safe. No, you're not safe.
No.
You are looking at a nation that has under 700,000 law enforcement officers. When you strip away the West Coast and the East Coast, where our population is so intense, you're bringing down that 700,000 number to about 300,000. And then that's 300,000 officers for the other 45 plus states. Then you take, like Jeff said, then you take the administration off. Then you take out guys that are sick and hurt. Then you take out guys that are on leave. Then you take out guys that are days off. Then you got to realize that law enforcement is a 24-hour-a-day event. You don't just work banker hours. So now you have to take those 350,000 officers. Then you got to divide that up into 3 shifts or two long shifts. So my point is, at any given day in America, you don't have many law enforcement officers at all. So what I'm trying to tell you is you're on your own. You understand? You're on your own. It's not that we don't want to help you. It's that There's just so few of us. And there's so much crime now in America because we're so lawless and no one fears anything. And I saw something in your chat here. Somebody said the problem is the judges, and they're absolutely right. We arrest, law enforcement arrests, and the judges release. No bond, no bail, cutting people loose. Well, put them on probation. What? The guy's a child rapist. Yeah, we'll let him bond out. It's okay. He works at a daycare. I'm sure he won't do it again. I mean, that's the world that we're living in. And I want your audience to understand, you need to be prepared and you need to have a plan because nobody's coming to help you. They may come and clean it up when the crime's all done and try to find out who did it, but no one is going to be standing by you to help you. You are on your own. And that is a fact.
Truth. You are your own first responder. So, JJ, appreciate your time. Hope you have a great weekend.
I wanted to say something real quick on what JJ said. He's absolutely right.
Okay.
You think about a normal person works a 40-hour week. Okay, to cover one police officer, every day on every shift, that requires 4 police officers working 40 hours a week and one of them working 8 hours of overtime. There's 168 hours in a week. Most people work 40 hours in a week. So whatever you think you have, you need to multiply it by at least 4 to get what you should have in manpower to cover that shift. And most people don't think about that. They think, well, I work 40 hours a week. Yeah, but you don't work overnight. You work 8 hours a day and you don't work weekends. Cops have to cover everything.
Yeah, there's not enough of us. Thank you, guys. There's just not enough of us. And it used to be that we had enough, but we don't have enough now because we have an infrastructure that's supposed to support 350 million people, but we have an infrastructure that's servicing over 450 million people because you have over 105 million legal and illegal immigrants in our country. Why do you think that there's so much crime? Why do you think there's a housing shortage? Why do you think our schools are overcrowded? Why do you think we don't have enough hospitals? Why do you think that we don't have enough of anything? Because we brought in another 100+ million people into our country, and we are now we're paying the price. So, guys, thank you so much.
JJ is spot on. Our population is declining, yet our schools are understaffed and underfunded, and they're overcrowded. How in the hell can that be? If we're having fewer children, if the United States, we need 2.1 children per fertile female to replace our population, and we're like at about 1.5. Why are our schools overcrowded?
Legit question. Absolutely.
Foreigners. That's why it's fucking foreigners. We're not educating Americans. We're educating the rest of the world.
Yes, you are. And you go to any school in the inner city, which I have been looking at, when you sit there and you watch those kids go into school, there's not a white children. There's not a white child.
Well, white, black, brown, it doesn't matter. They don't speak freaking English.
No, they're not from America. That's my point.
No, they're not American.
We are building schools, and our schools are busting at the seam as rest of our infrastructure because we're paying for foreigners. I don't think people understand. I really don't think Americans understand. We're broke for 2 reasons. One, they stole the $40 trillion we're in debt, and they gave it to illegal immigrants and foreign nationals and foreign nations. They don't care about you. Our government, our government is the enemy. Our government is the enemy of the people. And Thomas Jefferson told us what to do. It's just now, do we have the stones to do it?
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. You got me all jacked up. Now I got to go. And
all right, you got a whole weekend to calm down, dude.
Yeah, sure.
We love you, brother.
See you guys later.
Good to see you, JJ.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, I just wanted to cap in on that a little bit because remember we talked about previously when you had asked me questions about, staging and all that stuff. When I had mentioned about, how many vehicles and how many people do you have actually on duty at any one time for first responders. And if you take that whole section out, even the people that come in later, how are they? You see what I mean? Then you come into a gap real quick. And I didn't even know about the man shortage of what he was talking about there. So that makes it even worse. So that means after those second attacks, when they attack the first responders, they may not come back online.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's try reel it back in and get back on topic for the second segment that we're in, which is essentially the sleeper network activation, what that encrypted signal may have possibly meant. Randy, I mean, you were an Echo at one point in time, the Green Beret. For those of you not familiar with that, that means the comms expert in his team. So when you've got stuff going out on shortwave HF, Randy, and nobody's replying to it, and you can't then pinpoint who the end point is that, is that information even remotely useful to us as far as interdiction is concerned?
Well, I guess that depends on what it's encrypted with, right? If we can break that, we can bust the encryption or not.
Let's put it this way. My sources are saying that the NSA was able to decode the messages. That hasn't been made public. I'm not swearing to the veracity of it. I'm just telling you that my contacts have said it was. So let's just pretend, let's just roll with it. Let's just assume they were able to decode it, but it doesn't identify where the sleeper cells are.
Well, that's why you do it that way. This very well could have been a notification. Now, whether it was us doing it so we can pull off a false flag, or it's the jihadis and now the sleeper cells have been activated, we don't know which that is. And it might not be either one of those. It could be just something to throw people off. So we sit here and talk about it like this. And of course, our intelligence agencies and our military department, they have to go and talk about this and figure it out. So it's going to cost time, if nothing else. And, but this is how you would do it either way. If you were going to do that just so that maybe you can confuse them for a minute, boom, you would do that. If this was how you were going to alert your folks, and again, let's talk about what has happened here and how many of the leadership over there have been killed. And, their command structure has been decimated and many other things. So you don't really need them to reply back. If you're notifying folks, right? If you're just activating these sales, you don't want a signal coming back. You don't even want them knowing they received it wherever they are. So, but again, maybe the NSA has. I would assume if it's not our stuff that we could break it. I mean, we have our own too, but we're the best of the world at this as far as I know. I know China's pretty good at it too, but the reality is we're the best. And I think that, they probably have cracked it. That doesn't mean they're ever going to tell us what it actually said. But again, now we have to wait and see what, if anything, it really means.
Yeah, true story. I'll just reach down here and grab one of my business radios if I can reach it here in just a second. So the only way you can have encrypted comms as a civilian legally in America is to have a business class license where the FCC gives you 5 unique frequencies for a 50-mile radius around you. And then you buy business class radios that have encryption and channel hopping. So you're basically looking at Motorola's, Kenwood's, and Harris radios. Harris, not so much for civilians, but anyway, so these radios, they hop 3 channels every 1 second, whereas the Harris radios that you use when you serve, Randy, they hop 100 channels per second, plus much more robust encryption than these guys. I've been told straight up by my contacts in the NSA that they can crack the encryption and the channel hopping on business class radios in a New York minute. It's no challenge to them whatsoever, which is probably why they've limited it to, hopping 3 channels per second and the type of encryption that's on it. So this keeps the honest people away from decrypting what you're saying. Doesn't stop the NSA. Not even close.
No.
At all. So, Jeff, I want to pivot just a little bit on this. So Iran's got, Hezbollah, they've got Hamas and other, groups, and Hezbollah's joined to the cartels, especially Sinaloa. So they kind of fall in call it the infrastructure, the chart. Then you've got Al Qaeda and their network. Then you've got ISIS and their fixation on radicalizing lone wolves. How does an intelligence agency even begin to attribute where all of this messaging is coming and going? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you've got all these different layers. How do you even slice and dice that to make it make sense?
Well, it's very difficult. First of all, I mean, just like the numbers broadcast coming out of Milan. Okay, yeah, you may see where it's coming from. You can even say what what they're saying, but you have zero ability to know who's receiving it, because it's going out to the world. This is not a telephone call where there's a calling number and a called number. This goes out to everyone. And it could be in the US, it could be in the UK, it could be in Russia, it could be in China, it could be anywhere in the frickin' world. And you may know what they're saying, but you don't know who they're saying it to. And that's the problem.
Yeah, the huge problem. So, man, I had another question that Randy tweaked me on. I have to wait until it comes back to me. I should have written it down. But Randy, I want to give you a chance to respond to Trump's comment of saying, we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on them.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, clearly we don't. Everybody probably knows that. I don't know. I thought the only other thing that hasn't been mentioned, that maybe because you know how he is, he likes to taunt people. So maybe he was trying to taunt our enemies or the people here by making them fear that, oh, maybe they do know where we are. But the truth is, I go back to what I said when we originally talked about this. All he really did is open himself up and the government, for that fact, since he's the commander in chief, to when these cells, if they actually do get activated and then they go do any kind of property damage or take any life, people are going to go, okay, well, if you knew where they were, why didn't you do something about it before they did this? Why didn't we go pick them up, and what were we waiting for? So it was very foolish, and I think it opens him up and probably our government to some litigation if things go awry with sleeper cells and they kill some folks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they claim eminent domain, but I hear what you're saying. Jeff, is there any situation?
Well, public perception, as you know, will take care of that.
Yeah. Jeff, is there any scenario that you can think of where sleeper cells are activated, regardless of whether they're Iranian linked, Al Qaeda, ISIS, or otherwise? So they get activated, but get interdicted before they successfully pull off an attack.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they are under surveillance, and maybe they have been for a while, the FBI is watching them, and then there's a change in their behavior, a change in their pattern, and they start doing different things, and the FBI gets alerted, and then they load up in SUVs and start driving out, and the FBI pulls them over and stops them. That could happen, but it depends on you being in the position to watch them ahead of time. And even if the Bureau comes out and says, yes, they were on our radar, well, everybody's on the radar. And if they have, pick Atlanta, and they got 20,000 people in Atlanta they're looking at, they don't have enough FBI agents to watch all 20,000, 24 hours a day. They're going to miss stuff. It just happens that way. The way they would interdict them is if they had a tip or a clue that they were about to do something, and they increase their surveillance and they interdict them. And most of the time when that happens is because they're the ones talking to them on the internet. They're the ones offering them bomb making, equipment or explosives or plans. And, it's sort of like the Whitmer Fednapping case. There was only a case because the FBI created the case.
So
And
Randy,
got cold busted too. That
Yeah,
was
they
pretty
did
fun.
get cold busted.
well, Randy, you'll be able to run with this. So check this out. You can see the pages are numbered. So there's page number 1, page number 2, page number 3 and 4, and then page. I'm showing you this for a reason. Then page number 5. That was from a conversation with a person who's at the forefront of suing Saudi Arabia over 9/11 1.0, and it's going to be an absolute barn burner of an episode on Tuesday. I have her coming on, and
Well, I know that group of survivors has really taken over that little space, and there's a fund that the government has on fines and stuff that does this, but also any money they get like that gets put into this fund, it gets divvied out. So I wouldn't doubt that they're going after them because, as I mentioned, you know, the families, and this was probably 10 or 12, maybe 15 years ago, the families of the Beirut Marines just got money 10 or 15 years ago, and it was a lot of money.
well, add this to your calculus, Randy. Wait till you hear where I'm going with this. So there was a one of the Saudi Arabian suspected to be an intel operative, Al Bujami was his surname, was in America casing Washington, D.C., so casing the Capitol building, amongst other things there. And I mean casing, basically taking videos and saying, okay, here's the U.S. Capitol, here's an exit here, this is the main entrance there, walking around the buildings. The FBI had that video 10 days after 9/11 1.0 hit. The families tried to get it through the court system for, I mean, a ton of years. I want to say like 15, 16, 17 years. I've got the exact number written down. I just don't recall it. Okay. And the FBI stonewalled them at every single turn. And the FBI never acted on that information. But they found out that the MPS, so the Metropolitan Police Service in England, had the exact same intel that our guys had. So they went to the MPS, and the MPS did a big dump of data and information specifically on Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11 1.0. And then 60 Minutes picked it up and ran with it just last summer. And that's how everybody's aware of this stuff. So basically run with this, Randy. What on earth is going on when our institutions or agencies like the FBI and the CIA have rock solid evidence that another country, specifically Saudi Arabia, as far as 9/11 1.0 is concerned, they funded and organized and operated the entire attack on America, and our own agencies have been unwilling to cough that information up. And I'm going to let Terry on Tuesday describe the rest of what I'm fixing to tell you. At the annual 9/11 memorial in DC, Randy, last year, a very, very notorious person from the FBI, and I'll let her name this person, was in a dignitary tent. And Terry's the one who's at 911families.org that's heading up this lawsuit. She lost her husband in the attack. She asked somebody that was in the intel community, hey, can you get me in that dignitary area? I've been trying to get a hold of this person and they haven't responded to me. And they said, yeah, we'll get you in there. So she got him in there, and this person, who's a very public figure, and it's going to come out on Tuesday, basically snapped at her and told her that she was out of line, asking for any assistance as far as the evidence that the FBI has been sitting on all these years that implicates not just the Saudi Arabian government, Saudi Arabian royal family, Saudi Arabian government employees, Saudi Arabian known, undercover agents here in America. You pick that ball up and run with it, Randy. That's absolutely disgusting that our own government would do this.
Well, start off with playing kind of the devil's advocate, like we didn't have anything to do with it, right? Okay, so we'll start there. And certainly with the CIA and even our military, I understand this because there's also a lawsuit about EFPs, a lawsuit that my name's in that DC, and they wouldn't give. We couldn't even get the information of the out of DOD about when I got hit. So it doesn't surprise me. But you also have to realize we play this game around the world every single day of life. So in my opinion, some of these things, if we give the information that discloses other countries were responsible, they could turn around and do the same thing to us on some other events that we're not even talking about right now that we actually did. So I think that some of that could be from there. Like if we weren't guilty of any of it, we might not want to turn over that evidence, because once you get a court into case like that and it sets precedents, we all know what that means. Litigations will come out of the woodwork, and there would be claims from all over the world, even on to us and our own agencies and our federal government for some of the things that we've done overseas. There is no doubt about that. So now let's just pick up to where, let's go and look at the last, well, we'll say 25 years since it happened. Neither one of those organizations have done anything to improve their, not customer relations, but their reputations with the average American citizen, we'll just say, right? And since most of what the CIA does is overseas, we don't really see it here in America. So let's go with the FBI. And, you know, heck, we can even just go since Patel's been in there, or like even right before when there was an assassination attempt on the president. He was running at the time, but we haven't seen any kind of investigation. We've also talked about how it was seen there was an FBI agent on the roof the very day of, only a few hours after it happened, if a few, was cleaning and rushing off all the blood from Cook. Well, it's highly irregular, and they don't do it. FBI agents don't clean crime scenes. So you have to ask yourself, why in this one instance is this different? And so it could be that they're culpable. Let's go to the Whitmer kidnapping that Jeff just mentioned. And they got caught with their hands in the jar and their pants down on their ankles on this thing of trying to entice this guy. They gave him money, told him what to do. And when he didn't want to do it, they kept trying to make him do it, gave him more money. So they wanted him to kidnap her. And then they wanted to arrest him for it and blame him and whoever he brought in on that plan. So we just have to look at what those two agencies have been doing, and no one can trust them. If we go back to September 11th, I don't know how much Saudi Arabia had to do with it. Probably did. Who really knows? Because we don't know how they're cleaning and laundering money around the world to do all these things besides smuggling, taking a bunch of drug money to do operations. But the fact is, there's been, even recently, you've probably seen it in the last couple of days, I've seen two different video footages of the missile hitting the Pentagon. There is no doubt about it. One of them is from one of their little old, like where if you come into the installation, you have to badge in your car before you go park, was right next to that wall. And they put a plane there. And when they slow it down frame by frame, there's no doubt it's just one little white pencil looking thing that hits the Pentagon. How does that happen? Because obviously that wasn't a plane that they said it was. Where did that missile come from? Who fired it? And we already know from the very day of, and that's been since it happened, that someone saw a Chinook, or I'm sorry, not a Chinook, but a C-17 or C-130 or something, a military plane flying around right there in that area. So it's all very suspect. And, the fact that and then it goes with everything else. If you're American, a real American, and you have a problem, and even if they can do something about it, they're not going to. They're not going to. But if you're a foreigner or you're a criminal and you're here to do damage, they're going to fund you completely. So we've kind of got that ass backwards right now. And I think that lends to all of this. But again, I go back to neither one of these federal agencies have a very good reputation with the American public, and they haven't done anything to change that. And we'll just stick with the FBI since they're always in our face. Let's just go back since Patel has been in charge and look at everything that's happened, hasn't happened. It's a joke. It is a joke. And you have to wonder what is really going on, right? What are they really doing? And I guess when whatever happens next happens, we'll find out.
Well, what happens next is there's an extremely high probability of Kash Patel being removed from his position in the not too distant future. And there's an extremely high probability of Andrew Bailey taking over. So Andrew Bailey was the attorney general in Missouri. He was the one who sued the CCP for $25 billion for Charlie 19 damage to the economy in Missouri. He won. He started seizing their assets around the country, started with the high rises in downtown San Francisco. He ended up in DC about maybe 9 months ago to become Dan Bongino's, co-equivalent, like co-assistant director, because Bongino had already informed them that he was only going to stay for a period of time. Highly likely that Andrew Bailey becomes the next director of the FBI. And if he does, that's a pretty big win for America, because that guy is 100% legit. He's not a puppet.
I hope you're right, but it seems like everybody else that's went up there that we thought that about, it's not the way it turned out. And I just want to address somebody who said a comment there, well, if it wasn't a plane, where did the plane go? Hey, don't be a dumbass. I have no idea where the actual plane went. I've seen 2 different videos from 2 different views, and it is definitely a missile. There is no argument about that. So that being said, we'll keep moving. Thank you, JP.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say. Thanks to JP. So let's get into segment number 3, the propaganda pipeline, how radicalization becomes a body count. The online radicalization pipeline, which we covered in depth last night, is not background noise. It's the primary recruitment and activation mechanism for lone wolves. And since major platforms, as we mentioned last night, have pulled back content moderation, unless you're a white American Christian, ISIS recruitment, Al-Qaeda recruitment, Hezbollah messaging, anti-Western propaganda has exploded on almost every social media platform out there. So if you look at the attacks in Austin, New York City, Old Dominion University, the other one at the synagogue in Michigan, all in the span of 2 weeks, by the way, none of them are isolated. Those people may not have known each other, but they were the output of this propaganda to violence pipeline that converts online content consumption into kinetic action against soft civilian targets. And there's no traceable command structure to speak of. So the lone wolf threat is definitely the highest probability domestic attack vector. But that doesn't mean that it's the only attack vector. It's highly likely that we will see larger attacks, but not as coordinated as Al-Qaeda will actually execute in 9/11 2.0 after they rebuild their command and control structures. Just a quick, side tangent here. Mumbai 2008, you had 10 jihadis split into 5 two-man groups, brought a city of 18 million to its knees for 60 hours, killed hundreds of people. 2 of the jihadis, when they got out of the Zodiac that came up on a beach, went to a train station, killed 50 people in the first 2 minutes with full auto machine gun fire. Okay, that had 2 command and control centers, one in Northeast Afghanistan, and one in Northeast Pakistan. It takes a considerable number of people to be monitoring social media, monitoring live news, to tell the jihadis, hey, wait a minute, stay right where you are. Law enforcement is on its way, because the secondary and tertiary attacks, when they can kill first responders, is the big goal at the beginning of these CCTAs. Or they say, look, the roads are shut down between you and the target you were going to go to, your primary target. So go over here to this secondary target. And then, of course, pulled them all back together again to siege the Taj Hotel at the same time. 9/11 2.0 in Al-Qaeda's version is essentially the same thing, but will take a tremendous amount of resources to orchestrate all of these sleeper cells. So imagine 25 American cities. Imagine inside of each American city, there's 10 to 15 sleeper cells. Imagine in each of these sleeper cells, there could be anywhere from 4 to 12 jihadis in each of them. At the very least, you get several thousand jihadis that are being directed by these command and control centers. Well, what command and control structures were in Iran that were working with Al-Qaeda? They're gone. The ones in Afghanistan, they're gone because Pakistan smoked them. There are still some in Pakistan, but they're smaller and they're flying under the radar. Pardon me. And there's still some in Syria, but it's not enough to pull off 9/11 2.0 the way Al-Qaeda wants to. And Jeff mentioned already, these guys will wait decades to make sure everything lines up so that they execute their plan perfectly with the maximum amount of casualties. And in Al-Qaeda's case, they want the maximum amount of exposure, psychological damage. They want the big show, right? So yes, lone wolves are the most likely attacks that we will continue to see forever and a day. But the larger attacks have shifted essentially from being CCTAs, complex coordinated terrorist attacks, to focusing on high value targets. So high value targets, imagine the chaos if they were able to take out all of the bridges to New York City. It would be, and during a business day, let's say it was at 09:30 in the morning. Can you imagine the repercussions that would ripple through America for years after that? What if they took out the Golden Gate Bridge? And the list of high value targets goes on. So lone wolves number one, but significant targets is a close number two, and we'll likely see both of them. But at the end of the day, these sleeper cells, that they're not shrinking, they haven't shrunk. The 4-year Biden installation blew them up. They were already here. Now they're, blowing up even more because of all these people that came across the border. Jeff, I'm going to come to you first, per usual, now that our guest JJ is gone. I want to get your perspective on the Austin shooter, the New York explosive incident, the ODU attack, and the synagogue attack in Michigan. What are the common threads there as far as the operational pattern, or is there none? And what is the pattern there as far as those guys being radicalized from a retired CIA officer's perspective?
Well, the ODU guy was already radicalized. He'd already, been arrested, convicted, sent to prison, and then some idiot let him out. So what do you say with that? That's on us, not on them. The one in Michigan, another one where we're not following up. Okay, he was Lebanese. He was Lebanese. He was an American citizen, I believe. But his brothers were known Hezbollah. And when you have someone here whose family is, a documented member of a foreign terrorist organization, why in the hell aren't you looking at them? But I think all of them look like lone wolves. I mean, they weren't part of a larger group. There's no indication that other people worked with them. Maybe the two idiots in New York worked together, but I've seen no evidence of a larger network. I think you have 3-4 people who together or individually decided to go out and commit an act of terrorism to assuage some perceived slight somewhere. The guy in Michigan, his brothers were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Well, yeah, a lot of terrorists were killed in Israeli airstrikes. The lesson there is don't have brothers who are terrorists. I don't know.
Yeah. So Randy, this is kind of can't think of the right word. So I'm just going to say it's kind of a bullshit question, but I just want you to make a point with it more so than anything else. So you've got big tech has rolled back content moderation for everybody but white American Christians. And you've got this partial government shutdown. You've got CISA shut down for the most part. The skeleton crew, they're the ones who monitor, defend, and go on the attack for cyber attacks on our behalf. But with the proliferation of these online recruiting propaganda pipelines, what chance do we stand of actually ferreting out these lone wolves with an increase in volume of they're recruiting more people, but we have less people working on it. I think it's a snowball's chance in hell, but I want to hear your thoughts. And I'm a little disappointed. It's hour and 17 minutes into the podcast, and I haven't seen your blood pressure go up yet.
I'm a bit bothered today. So I just want to start off. I'll apologize for snapping it, though. There's a couple of people that said that a while ago, but the truth is, I'm just thinking, all I saw was 2 different videos where that's definitely not a plane. And so that's a very good question. What happened to the plane and the people that were supposed to hit it? That's a very good question. It's probably one of the reasons they don't want this court case to ever actually get to court, to trying anyone. Anyway, let me just add quickly.
Yep. The judge has ruled that the case can proceed against Saudi Arabia.
That's going to be a big deal, as we all know. When it gets to court and they start presenting evidence, there's no telling what's liable to come out.
It's already started through discovery, and the judge is allowing it to proceed all these years later.
Yes.
That's why Tuesday's episode, if you are truly interested in who was behind 9/11 1.0 and you want a bunch of gory details that you probably won't find encapsulated all together anywhere else, make sure you join us Tuesday night. But go ahead, Randy.
Well, so on the lone wolf, and the amount of people that we let in, and then the amount of youth that we've disenfranchised in this country, we're going to have a serious problem with that probably for some time. I will caveat, though, and say, if we really got serious, right? We really got serious about it, and we got rid of the 110 million extras that we got here for no reason. That probably would be go a long ways, right? Because then that would free up all those assets and every aspect of that. And now we could focus on some other stuff. But not only that, if they could get the 110 million out, some of those sleeper cells are going to be some of the people that go out. Hopefully a lot of them, but we don't know that. But when it comes to these lone wolf things, man, it's why they had a hard time. Well, it is different, as I think Jeff or somebody described here recently, maybe Mike, I don't know. But, in the Middle East, that entire world, in the Arabic world, the oldest son gets everything. Every kid after that gets nothing, basically. So what that means is if that guy has 10 sons, there's 9 sons that don't have any prospect or any future or is going to get anything. And you got to, so as we mentioned, and one thing about people, it doesn't matter. It's definitely when you're younger, and certainly when you get into your 20s, it's one of the things that's very easy to do, because people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, where they think something good is going to come of it. And so they will sign on to all kinds of stuff, and then you look at cults. If we just look at, the cults that we know about, like Jonestown, and like the most famous one, I'm blanking his name right now, but the fact of the matter is people can be convinced. It doesn't matter what your degree is or how smart you are or even how dumb you are. There are people that are flamboyant enough and charismatic enough and just articulate enough to be able to snow you into anything. It's the same thing when you hear people talk about they could sell snow to a snowman. Those kind of people will be able to talk people into doing anything. And so when you have all these disenfranchised, including in well, let's take Cook for an example. How fast do you think that happened? I bet it was real quick. That because he was probably already a bit disenfranchised, as we know. That's how he was in high school. He didn't fit in anywhere. He was a loner. He was a reject. He got picked on. So that guy was prime for somebody to come along and say, hey, guess what? We can change your whole scene. And, I bet they told that guy he was going to be a hero. All you got to do is kill Trump, and you are going to be a hero for life. And it worked. Only problem is he missed and he got killed. So I really think you're right that this is going to be a serious problem, because we're going to have to iron out our youth too and get back to teaching youth what it means to be an American and how to critically think, instead of just being, let me just remember everything and regurgitate it. And then 6 months later, I don't remember a piece of it. Not a fact, not one fact. So I think we have a lot of work to do besides just getting all the foreigners out, but we're going to have to do some cleaning up with our youth as well, because of how bad they brainwash these kids. And that's never going to change. We're never going to convince them otherwise again, most of them. That's a fact.
Yeah, true story. Just wanted to say thank you to John for the tip. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So, Jeff, last question in this segment goes to you. So if this propaganda pipeline is now the primary, force multiplier, threat multiplier, what's the response that we should be having on our side? Like, is it more surveillance? Is it more counter narrative? Is it a harder look on who's allowed to even operate on American soil? Like, who can come into the country for student visas, H-1Bs and all that crap? Or is it just all of the above and hope for the best?
Yes, all the above. Yeah, you can't surveil everyone who is a potential threat. We just don't have enough bodies. And there's plenty of potential threats. So what you have to do is stack and rank the potential threats and put people on the most serious ones. Part of that is to reduce the number of potential threats in the country by actually screening who the hell we let in. How many times have you seen someone who's committed an act, they've been here for 10 years, they were let in because their brother, mother, father, wife was here, and then it turns out, well, yeah, we should have known all along because they had an arrest in Pakistan or wherever the hell they're from related to terrorist activities. We need to crack down, to be harsh and say, you don't have a right to be here. You're only going to be here if we decide to let you in. And by the way, the bar is up here. You can apply all you want, but if you have any black marks, see it. And people say, oh, you're going to disqualify a lot of people who would be great for this country. Yeah, maybe. Them's the breaks. When you make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. You're not killing them. You're just not letting them in the country. If they're that wonderful, they'll do fine in their own country.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, as I said before, if we just enforce the laws we have, it'd go a long ways. Go a long ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to show the website here. So y'all can check this out in advance if you want. 9/11familiesunited.org. And Terry, who's heading this up, is the one who will be with us on Tuesday evening. Terry Strada, pretty well-known name in the call it terrorism, anti-terrorism world, for lack of a better term. And JP, I got to thank JP again for another tip. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Let's get into segment number 4. But before then, Randy, I mean, as a Green Beret, we've discussed this before, that one of the things that we do better than anybody else is get food and sustenance to our troops on the front line. And, there's a famous Napoleon quote that an army marches on its stomach. You can't fight effectively when you're hungry, right? So the reason I bring this up is because I want to give you, 30 seconds or whatever you need just to talk about Carnivalt as our premier sponsor. Forget about the fact that they're our sponsor, but 25-year shelf life, 100% American meat. Man, if the shit hits the fan with the supply chain for groceries, how important is it to have that stuff on your shelf, Randy, and meaning high quality protein?
Well, you bring up how good we are with the supply chain, right? That's one of the things we are the best at. It's the reason the North beat the South. It's in fact why Germany lost. Well, 2 reasons. 3. 1, that guy was a nut job. Thank God he went insane through the whole thing. But the other part is Germany wasn't big enough. They're not like us. They don't have all these natural resources that then you can collect stuff up and build things with. And we do. And then we're very good at doing that, and we get it over there. And it's a big deal. Again, it's one of the reasons why Germany wasn't able to finish off Russia. And had they been able to, the amount of natural resources they would have unlocked with that one victory would have made a huge difference. But the fact is, it has always been a problem in combat. So that's how important it is to be able to get supplies to your troops, or you lose. It's just that simple. And so we're no different. And what was the other part about here? Did you want me to?
Just the importance of having high quality food. So
Yes, and then on Carnival. Yep. So listen, folks, I've had MREs and they're not bad. Certainly at today's time, they're not bad compared to what they were 40 or 50 years ago. But what I will say is, if you think about any other stored foods you've ever tried, and I don't know how many of y'all have, they're usually not too good. But guess what? When you're having to break into that, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you're so hungry, as I've mentioned before, you will eat the ass out of a dead horse. You get hungry enough, you absolutely will, even if you don't think so. But then to have something like Carnival, first of all, prime beef, pork, or chicken that is freeze dried so well that you can keep it on the shelf for over 25 years, well over 25 years at this point. And then to think that you've got something in the bag that's straight up protein. It's not all that carb crap. If you go to all those other survivor meals, and they're out there for preppers, right? And I know a lot of people bought a lot of that stuff, but it's all just a bunch of empty carbs for the most part. And it sucks. It's not even that good, as I said, but you will eat it. This is the exact opposite. Carnival is the bomb because it's very easy. I like, because it's got resealable bags. I didn't really need the single serves, but they're kind of convenient. If you were going to take them with you on the trail, you don't have to take the bigger bags. But the reality is, there's not too many meals I can't get done with that stuff in about 30 minutes. Now you can make something more elaborate if you want, and this is just the meat part. But the reality is, even when I do the steak and eggs, all I do is start cooking the egg. I get some butter in the skillet. I throw some of the beef in there for like 30 seconds. Then I got the eggs. And by the time I've cooked the eggs all the way to they're done for scrambled eggs, the meat's done. I do rice and gravy with all three of them. I cook it in the gravy while I'm making the gravy. That's how. So you really don't have to cook it very long. And, it's one of those things that also soaks up a little bit of the seasoning. So it's easier to season stuff. And it's extremely good. And yeah, that's right. You don't need that boat. At the end of the day, that boat isn't going to save you. You won't be able to eat it. Well, most of it anyway.
True story. So, by the way, if you sign up for a Carnival subscription, forward your receipt each month to support at survivaldispatch.com, and you get 30 days tacked onto your Guardian membership at no charge. And one last comment on Carnival. Last year, beef alone, wholesale price went up 49%. If you sign up for a Carnival subscription, your price is locked in for 12 months. So where else are you going to get a 49% return on investment? But with that being said, let's get into segment number 4, civilian security posture, how Americans harden the target. Asymmetric warfare deliberately exploits open societies. Malls, churches, stadiums, transit hubs, and outdoor markets are designed to be accessible, which makes them operationally attractive to any actor willing to use that openness as a weapon against the civilians inside them. The Paris attacks in 2015 demonstrated that a single coordinated cell can simultaneously strike multiple soft targets across a major city and overwhelm emergency response. The same doctrine applied across 25 American cities simultaneously would produce a casualty environment that emergency management systems are not designed to absorb. The correct civilian response is not panic paralysis or surrender to a bunker mentality. It's deliberate, trained situational awareness combined with a family-level emergency action plan that functions independently of cell infrastructure, government coordination, or outside, holy cow, outside rescue. I need to do more cardio, I think. Jeff, what are the 3 most actionable steps that an American family living in a major metro area can start working on over this weekend to harden themselves up, whether it be their home or themselves, so that they're not such a soft target without, blowing the budget per se?
Yeah, if you're in an apartment in a high rise, there's not a lot you can do other than put really good locks on your door. or put something on the inside. You have the angled iron things that go into the floor. So if someone tries to kick in your door, it doesn't work because, you're pretty well a sit and duck. If you have a house and you're in a city or a metropolitan area, you've got to, how much room is between you and your neighbors? Can you put things that deter people from approaching your home? Rose bushes, things with thorns, that kind of stuff. But I think the number one thing is if you're in a metropolitan urban area, make a plan to get the hell out of there. Because an urban area is a smorgasbord for terrorists. So the smart thing to do is find, plan for, if I need to get my family the hell out of here, how do I do it? How do I do it quickly? How do I do it efficiently? And that means one vehicle, get your family in one vehicle, take what you need to survive on for X number of days, and make sure the gas tank is full. Make sure if you have guns, make sure you have guns and ammo, and then have multiple routes to get from where you live to where you want to bug out to. Because if you have one route and the bridge goes down, or one route and there's a terrorist attack along the way, you're screwed. You need to have a plan A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, true story. It caught me flat-footed there for a second. I was putting some links in the live chat over here.
I planned to catch you flat-footed. That was my whole goal.
You did it. You got it.
Yeah.
You win that round. Jeff won first. So, Randy, the Paris attacks, which were, the next big CCTA after Mumbai in 2008, there were a bunch of casualties in part just because of civilian panic. And what that did is it obstructed law enforcement from getting to where the attack was happening. What do you think that good civilian behavior looks like in the first 90 seconds if somebody's caught on the X? So basically, Paris, a bunch of people freaked out. They plugged up the path that first responders were trying to get in. What's the exact opposite of that as far as being effective things to do in the first 90 seconds if they survive the initial blast?
But do you expect average citizens to do this?
No, but
it's not going to happen.
We need to define it.
Yeah, because what's going to happen? First thing I'm going to tell you is if something like that happens, what you need to do, and I hope you remember this, is start asking yourself a couple of questions. They could be as simple as possible. You have to ask it, and you can do this while you're running because you're probably going to be running at this point. But you need to ask yourself a couple of questions so you can get the brain going back to your, the blood back to your brain. Because what happens when fight or flight, that adrenaline kicks in, and believe me, for most of you, if you're caught on the X when this happens, you probably never even felt it like this before. And it's going to drive you wherever you go. So you're going to need to ask yourself a couple of questions, because if you don't get that blood back into your brain, you're not going to be able to think clearly, and your panic mode is going to run itself all the way out. And you might get lucky and you ran the right direction, but you might not either. So I would say first thing is what I just said. You really have to learn how to breathe and remain calm so that you can start making some good decisions. And that's going to depend on where this is coming from, right? Where is the bad guy or bad guys? Where is that? Where are you? And at this point, it also comes down to, are you close enough to do anything about it? If they're right on top of you and you're not getting away when you run anyway, you might as well take your chances and go for them. Just like we saw here recently where that group, they stabbed the guy to death. None of them had any guns, but, they didn't sit around and wait. I think people are stopped. They're tired of doing that because we see what's going to happen. So again, get the blood back in your brain, start asking some questions, start thinking, remain calm, and then you decide. And again, if they're right there, you don't have much time. It has to be like the guy that jumped on the grenade. Just go. Jump on them, fight them, get as many people as you can to follow you. If you are not close to this person, if you're going to have to run across or even a big room or a open space or anything like that, forget about it. You need to, because as many of you need to get off the X as possible, because that's what's going to be safe for most people. When I talk about trying to interdict this guy, those are for the only people that are right there, and there's not much they're going to be able to do about it anyway. Those are the ones that have the chance to do something about it right now and possibly end it quickly. But other than that, as we've said many times, if you are not, don't go trying to be a hero. Go ahead and get you and your family, or you and your friends, or you and your coworkers, or whoever, or yourself off the X. And that is heading to an exit, or where you know there is a safe place. And I don't mean safe spaces they talk about in college. I'm talking about, it's away from where all the bad stuff is happening. And then, it comes back to also cover and concealment. Some of these, if you're going to have to run an open space, you still want to try to skirt the edge. You want to keep as much cover between you and the bad guys possible, but concealment can help. At least he can't see you specifically. But again, when we talk about cover and concealment, cover has protection. Cover is protection. Concealment is no protection. They can't see you, but it's not going to stop bullets or anything else. So, getting off the X will be the most important thing. And then kicking in your get home plan, whatever that is that you've come up with, to meet up with your family, your kids, what have you. But really, those are the two things you need to decide right away. If they're close enough, get the guy. If you're not, get the hell out of there. But either way, ask yourself a question or two if you have time, because if you're next to the guy, you may not, but everybody else will. And you really do need to ask yourself a question or two so the blood comes back into your brain, because we all know, and we've all seen plenty of cases where people have stormed out and people were stampeded to death because they fell over, because everybody's just in that full panic mode and running. And there's no thought. You're just running.
Yeah, I just want to add this, and then you set Jeff up perfect for the next question, by the way. I hate the genericness of this, the run, hide, fight deal. I don't think that's descriptive enough to tell people the things that they should do. So, for example, if somebody's shooting in your direction, the two worst things you can do is run directly towards them or run directly away from them. And it may sound like it's a no-brainer, but when you're under pressure, people don't, they don't have the clarity. But if you're running,
that's right, because
somebody is shooting at you, you're an easy target. So when people say run, hide, fight, I like to add this: run laterally, run sideways. Try it yourself if you have any like active shooting bays at your gun club. If it doesn't matter if something's getting further or closer to you, it's an easier shot than if something is moving sideways. So that increases your odds of surviving. Any sniper will tell you, by the way, that's the harder shot for them, is when you're moving laterally. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I was going to say the only reason I don't go into that is because it's really going to determine the area. Was it indoors? Is it outdoors? Is it an alley you're running through? Is it a hallway? You may not always be able to run laterally. So there's so many different scenarios there. That's the unfortunate part. You're not going to have every answer that you're going to need when this goes off, if you didn't at least look around and think about what I always say: where am I going to go with the ball before the pitcher throws the ball? If you walked into a mall or into one of these big areas, you do need to take a look around. And if something happens, what are you going to do? So at least you have that thought out that far.
Yeah. So the run, hide, fight thing, these are just extra clarifications I like to add. Yeah. It's not directed at you at all. So
I didn't take it.
If you can run laterally, that's your first choice of running. But instead of the word hide, and Randy touched on this, think of, where can I get cover? So the front of a vehicle where the engine is, you put the engine between you and the bad guys, that's cover. If you're crouched down behind the trunk, you don't have any cover. You have concealment, and you quite easily could be DRT. So,
and listen, the way they teach you to hide on that car, it's the front wheel.
Yes.
You were trying to hide behind that front wheel. You don't even want to step out past that any more than you can. Some people are so big but most people can get behind that wheel, and that is where the safest place of a vehicle is.
With the exception of the bad guy coming towards the front of the car and you being behind the back of the car. But just so run laterally if you can. Hide means seek cover, not just concealment. And fight. The one thing I have to say to that is ABC. Always be caring. And I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving you legal advice. You can do whatever you want with that. I know what I do, and I'm not giving up my weapons to go to a gun-free zone and become a victim. So
That's
with
right.
that being said, you did set Jeff up really well for this. So Jeff, most people haven't thought through their threat environment from the perspective of an adversary doing pre-attack surveillance. So a great example, we mentioned it before, is the bomb threat in Times Square last September, I think it was. And it was clearly a probing exercise. And the bad guys were clearly monitoring it. And the NYPD blocked off all the entrances and exits and had everybody exfil in the exact same direction, which is kind of like it's a death shoot, for lack of a better term. What are the things, additional things? Like, I don't think Americans are prepared for this in general. Most people in the world aren't prepared for this sort of thing. But what patterns of behavior, other than the simple example I just gave, should Americans at least be aware of so they don't make those bad choices when they're on the X and they've survived so far, but the attack is still underway?
Avoid the herd mentality. If everybody's running one direction, maybe you want to run a different direction, because a mass of people in panic is a great target if you're a terrorist. They're not going to respond logically. They're going to react viscerally, and you can use that to maximize your casualties. So if you see 80, 90% of the people running to the right, maybe you want to run to the left. I'm not saying go back towards the initial attack if there was an explosion or something, but if there's a set logical exit, if I'm a terrorist, that's where I'm setting up. So maybe you want to take someplace where it's not so obvious.
Yeah, true story. And here's a good example, by the way. I mean, there's countless examples, but think of the Vegas shooting, right? Yeah. So when the shooting started, a bunch of people tried to exfil the same way that they came in. And if the shooter had have succeeded with his plan, the death toll would have been way higher. Basically, when they were exfilling, they were in close proximity to large propane tanks. And he tried to shoot the propane tanks with a .308, and it didn't penetrate those tanks. If it had of, then again, the death toll would have been very high. But in that instance, what you had was everybody following the crowd. Herd mentality, like you mentioned.
And sometimes the illogical is the logical. And I go back to military history when at Vicksburg, the Confederates had these batteries on the river to make sure that the Union ships could not run the gauntlet past Vicksburg. They'd get slaughtered. Well, the Union captains logically said, okay, let's get on the far side of the river from Vicksburg, make it a longer shot. Well, there was one Union captain who noticed that the shots from the Confederate cannons were hitting their smokestacks, meaning they were shooting high. So what he did, which was illogical on the surface, but very logical, was if I get closer to the Confederate batteries, they're really going to be shooting over me because they were up high on the riverbank, and you get so close they couldn't shoot down at you. And that's how they ran the gauntlet, so to speak, with this big, flotilla of steamboats. They only lost one ship because they got close to the Confederate side. They could only hit them with small arms, or they could take out their smokestacks, but they couldn't damage the ships themselves. And basically went through unscathed. So there's sometimes it's like in Vegas, the guy was shooting from up high. If you had enough wherewithal to recognize that, the place to be is not far away; it's close in. He can't shoot down at you like this. He's shooting out at an angle. So, but that requires that you know where the shots are coming from, and that you don't panic, that you are, you're composed, you're being logical, you're assessing the situation. And most people are incapable of doing that under fire.
Yeah. You need reps so that you do it autonomously. That's for sure. Autonomically, I should say. I don't want to forget our friends at Wasatch Wagyu, the best jerky in the world, but every time I grab a handful, bring them into my office, I end up eating them. This is the best jerky in the freaking world. And I put a code in the chat, SD20. So SD20 gets you 20% off, wasatchwagyu.com. There's no jerky out there that even comes close to comparing to this stuff. It's 100% Wagyu beef. It's full of good fats, great for protein, and it won't bust your jaw chewing on it either. So Mike Glover and I are both we're in therapy right now for our addiction to the crack cocaine jerky. And that's our story. We're sticking to it. But let's get into this fifth and final segment, which is a strategic outlook. What comes next in the long war? So speaking of the long war, after tonight, there are only 20 episodes left in the Long War series, which is 144 episodes long. So we've covered, after tonight, we've covered 124 of 144 episodes in the Long War. All right. The 25th anniversary of September 11th falls obviously this year, which is the same year that we're hosting the World Cup across 11 cities, celebrating our 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, and prosecuting an act of war. I think I might have got autocorrect, might have changed my words there. Undertaking an act of war against Iran, a convergence of high visibility, soft target opportunities, all those things that I don't think there's any national security analyst is really comfortable with. It keeps getting brought up by different groups, different agencies, different think tanks. When you take all that into consideration, 25th anniversary of 9/11 1.0, World Cup in 11 cities across America, 250th anniversary of America's founding, plus this ongoing war against Iran, man, it's almost like a nexus, a perfect storm. So Iran's new supreme leader, which Lord only knows how long he may or may not survive, has inherited a regime that's now lost its nuclear program, its air defense systems, its multiple supreme leaders, by the way. So it's wounded, but they're a motivated adversary, and they still have significant asymmetric warfare capabilities, through Hezbollah, other proxy networks that we've already mentioned, embedded assets in the Western Hemisphere. So these guys are embedded all through Mexico, Central America, South America as well. So the threat picture is not going to de-escalate when Operation Epic Fury ends. It's just going to go into the next phase of this long war. It's just going to become part of this ongoing domestic security challenge. It's only going to get worse and worse. It doesn't matter whose numbers you want to believe. With the border being open for 4 years and the infiltration that happened, there is essentially an army inside of our country that hates our guts and wants to do harm to us. And anybody who thinks otherwise, I got some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona. And this is going to be an extreme test of Americans as it continues to progress. It's already started. The 4 attacks that have happened in the past couple weeks, it's already started. So coming back to you, actually, I'm going to go to Randy, seeing as we're fifth and final one. Randy, safe to say that Iran has lost the conventional war so far. I don't think I don't think it's advisable to do, to put boots on the ground inside of Iran. They've got it's a mountainous country. It's very well protected. And then they've got this Bosage militia that reportedly has somewhere between 1 and 3 million people in it. I can see it unfolding like another Vietnam myself. But what does the next 90 days look like in your crystal ball as far as Iranian retribution here in the homeland?
Oh shoot, I have no idea, man. It really, we'd have to say it's likely or imminent, right? You would think so, because first off, even if we eliminate the 4 years of Biden, we know that Iran has had some people here for decades, at least since the 80s, I think, certainly the 90s. So it only stands to reason that we just pummeled them, that they might want a little retribution, even though they're all dead now, or the ones responsible. They're going to want their little message or their little whatever to still make it out into the world. So I would say that, the next 90 days, we're probably going to see some sort of attack. I don't know how that we don't. But, again, is Iran going to be responsible for it? I don't know. But we do know that they've supposedly, in the last 2 weeks, we've had these signals come out a couple of different times, a couple of different ones. So, and then as we've mentioned on the show since it's been happening, we've hit them pretty good. So I don't, I would be more surprised if we don't see anything. I don't know what the next 90 days would look like. I don't know, I guess we'd have to pull up a calendar. What of those events that you just talked about? Let's see, it's March, it's almost April, May, June, July. So it almost still gets us to July. So, not only summer coming, but and the heat, but I think that we're going to see some action, because I just don't think that, they're going to go down without a fight of some sort. And everybody knows we're most likely not going in there. So the fact is, they're going to have to come here if they want their pound of flesh. And I don't think that pound of flesh is just going to be sending missiles into all the other manufacturers around the Gulf. I have no doubt they're going to finish doing that as well. But you have to think that they're going to want a piece of the United States. I mean, these people since 1980 have been screaming death to America. They've been saying they want to come up with nukes solely so they can hit us and Israel. So I would say I would, expect something. We've already, like you mentioned, the last couple of weeks, we've seen some lone renegades, probably really didn't have anything to do with Iran, but you got to think about how pissed off everybody is, whether it's us on this side because it's all happening and it shouldn't be. And there's a lot of things we could have done to change this. And then you have the other side just cheering this on, and they want it all. So now they're on side with Iran. And some of these people probably did that because of we're attacking Iran. So we will probably see some more of those types of things too. But I'm willing to bet, and I'm not a betting guy because I don't like losing my money. I'm not a gambler either, but I'm willing to bet that we're going to see some sort of retribution from Iran in this country, even if it's some sort of failed attempt.
Yeah, for sure. Saved by Grace says Crystal Ball is a great song by Styx. We saw them live at the St. August amphitheater a couple weeks ago. Absolutely. Great. And a bunch of the original members of the band, by the way. Jeff, with the World Cup spread across 11 cities this summer here in America, plus 9/11 1.0's 25th anniversary, plus 250th anniversary of the country. I mean, this is literally a calendar now where these, whether you want to call them lone wolves, sleeper cells, or both that can work towards, realistically, is our security agencies like combined? Are they resourced and coordinated enough to defend against this? Because I suspect that they aren't.
No, because between the World Cup and the 250th anniversary of the founding of the country, they could hit the Black Hawk County World's Fair or County Fair in Iowa, kill 10 people, and it would be a huge news story. But what kind of resources are going to be dedicated to protecting the Black Hawk County Fair? Yeah, not a lot. And the thing is, if you hit some vulnerable backwater part of the heartland. And I'm not saying Blackhawk County, Iowa is a backwater because I was born there, but it pretty much is a backwater. It's going to make a big impact because that's going to be wow, we never thought they would hit there. Everybody expects New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., but they don't expect, Podunk, Iowa. And I honestly think that to a certain extent in the heartland, hitting Podunk, Iowa would have more of an impact than hitting New York. Because if you're in Des Moines, you're going, yeah, it's New York. Everybody bombs New York. That's what New York is for. But when it hits locally, it's going to scare the hell out of people because for most Americans, for 99% of Americans, terrorist attacks are something that happens over there, not here.
Yeah. So the last question, and both you can take a swing at it. For the traditional American conservative Christian preparedness community, what is the both spiritual and practical posture that makes sense right now for those of us who fall into that demographic? And then the follow-up to that would be, what does being prepared actually look like for a threat that's not a hurricane and it's ideological? It's an ideological attack on civilians. Randy, I'll let you run with that first.
Well, I would say first off, you're going to have faith in God, and the funny thing is, I just watched this video a couple days ago, and hang on, I'll get the kid's name. Let me get my phone. I apologize. Gabe Perot, but not like the Perot family. It's Poirot. Gabe Perot. So this kid, I think he's 24 now. When he was 20, he was on a skateboard, one of those electric skateboards with his friends that were hauling butt, going around a curve, and he hit a bump in the road and it flipped him off and I don't know how fast he was going, probably 25, 30 miles an hour, but when he came down, it split and cracked his skull. And so he's wrote a book now. It's called 18 Days in Heaven. And I encourage anyone to look up this kid's story and watch. I know Fox News had on for 7 minutes, which my dad saw. He sent that to me. I went on YouTube and I found there's one for an hour and 10 minutes where he tells the whole story, probably not the whole book, but it's pretty incredible. So my point to that is we don't need to worry about any of this. Yeah, it's going to get uncomfortable for us, but the fact is it's in God's hands and he will even this out before it's all said and done. That is a fact you can count on. And so beyond that, as a Christian, you have to know that's the case. And you also have to be aware that you're going to go through some rough times and struggles. And again, I go back to our example as Jesus Christ. You look at how his life was, how it ended, and then including the 12 disciples, where I think only one died of natural causes. So the reality is, and Jesus said it was so. If you're going to follow him, be prepared to be prepared to be assaulted by the world. And there's no doubt that that's going to happen. So you have to keep that in mind, but you need to be ready and prepared. It doesn't mean just roll over and get killed. So you still have to pay attention, right? Put your phones down, pay attention, watch what's going on, and, have faith that you're going to make it out and never quit, and just keep moving. So the truth of it is, most of us probably won't be on the X when this happens, but all the stuff that comes later, we're all going to be in. So you have to be strong. You have to know it's going to suck. You have to know it's going to get bumpy. So you can't fall apart when that happens or completely lose your mind. As Jeff mentioned and what I've talked about, you're going to have to be able to remain calm and make some good decisions. And really, that's going to be the best posture for anybody, whether you're a Christian or not. But certainly for Christians, because the world has it out for us right now. Pretty much everybody else on the planet has it out for us. So they're not going to have your back. And it goes back to the same old thing that I will quote my fellow Green Beret, Scott Mann's book, no one is coming to save you. Now, God will, but that's going to be in the end. So just know that we have that piece, that we win, they lose, but we're going to have to go through some stuff first.
Thanks, Randy. So, Jeff, just to reiterate, for the conservative Christian American preparedness community, what's the spiritual and practical posture that makes sense right now? And what does being prepared actually look like when this is an ideological attack? It's not a hurricane, a wildfire, or anything like that.
Well, what it means is there are no rules. They're not going to have rules. They're going to shoot your dog. They're going to shoot your kids. They're going to shoot your wife if given the opportunity. So your job is going to be to keep them from doing that. That can be from not being there when they attack, getting away, or defending yourself. Basically, and again, this sounds harsh, but kill them before they kill you.
Yeah, true story, true story. So, Randy, would you believe it? It's that time of night again, and 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's time for the Carnival practical payoff. And what does that mean? Well, at the end of each episode, we discuss skills, items, and mindset shifts that are related to the main topic of the night, as far as giving y'all essentially homework, action items for you to do. So, Jeff, I'm going to let you go first on this one, or have you go first, I should say. You have your choice. Pick a skill, an item, or a mindset shift based on tonight's topic.
Mindset is, and we've said it before, you're on your own. Don't assume someone's coming to rescue you. They're not. If there's a major terrorist attack, they're going to be busy. They're not going to be worried about your house or your neighborhood. So it's going to be incumbent upon patriotic Americans to act like patriotic Americans and defend themselves, their neighborhoods, and their neighbors.
True story, true story. So, Randy, that means you have a choice between one skill or one item that people should focus on.
You know, I know this is like an old cliche, but I'm going to go back to the story I just referenced. And if anybody watches it, you will see, because they asked, one of the questions the interviewer asked him was, could he see his family and friends back here while he was in heaven after he had just had the accident? And he said, no, he could not see them, but he could see all their prayers coming right up to heaven. And he said, everything is stacked on the prayers. So let's get back to praying for your family, praying for your community, praying for this country, praying for our elected officials, even the ones that aren't doing the right thing, that somehow their heart will be changed and they will turn away from what they're doing, and they will do the job that they were intended to do. So I'm going to go with praying, because apparently it is really that important.
Not a bad answer at all, Randy. So that leaves me an item, and I'm going to say basically you got to have backup to your cell phone. I've seen some people who are pretty smart but put out what they called comms plans for SHTF, and the whole plan revolves around a cell phone. Well, your cell phone's not going to work worth a shit, and even if the network doesn't go down, it'll be saturated, and law enforcement and other first responders will get priority access through the FirstNet program. So you got to have other ways to communicate, and it doesn't mean that you have one backup device to your phone. That's not an SHTF comms plan in the slightest. So I'm just going to quickly cover some of these things. So the POC radios, then you can get the link off of our Substack, survivaldispatch.news, to check these out. These are the new ones that are Wi-Fi and 4G. You can tell by the orange button. And the Ultras, which came before this, I have one over here if I could reach it. There we go. They have blue buttons on them. These are FRS plus 4G. So coming from big tech, lots of experience, firsthand experience in the telephony side of things, the telephony industry. Here's the deal. 5G and 4G are not always commingled on a carrier's network. So there are times when 5G can go down and 4G remains up, which is the same thing as LTE, long-term evolution. So in those cases, something like a POC link, which does incredible compression on audio, you'll still be able to traverse the 4G network because it'll still be up. Whereas people's cell phones are trying to do data. You all have seen it before. When you go somewhere and you fall off 5G and you go into 4G, you can't even upload and download any pictures. These are super, super efficient as from a bandwidth perspective. Now, the FRS, what that means, that's over the air. So they have about a 1 mile range. So if you're in a convoy traveling down the road and you have one of these in each of the cars, y'all will be close enough to communicate. It's about a 1 mile range for these guys as far as OTA over the air. The ones with the orange button that just came out, the POC Link Pros with Wi-Fi, I've used this example before, but I'm going to use it again. So maybe 3 months ago, Marin County, California, south side of the Bay Area, 911 goes down, which happens there frequently, by the way. But also all three major carriers went down. So internet access through different carriers or through different ISPs was still available. This type of POC link, the new Pros, can communicate over Wi-Fi, which of course it means you have access to the internet. So as far as these radios are concerned, I recommend that you have both of them. You have a mixture of them in your group because they have different purposes. But other things that you can consider as far as communication devices are concerned is the Garmin InReach Messenger or the Garmin InReach Mini. The Mini 2 you can get now for $249 to $299. They were $400 forever. The new Mini 3 is out. It's $450 to $500. It can push videos and stuff. But bottom line is with the InReach Messenger, I think they're about $199 to $259 these days. Is your phone connects to the Garmin InReach. The Garmin InReach device connects to an Iridium satellite. That Iridium satellite pushes the signal back down to a NOC, a network operations center on the ground, and it goes to whoever. The other person doesn't have to have a Garmin product. They can get your text messages through this chain of events that I just described. It's a really reasonable, cheap backup plan. So at the very least, if you can afford it, you've got your cell phone, then get some POC links and get some Garmin InReach minis and put you in pretty good shape. Another thing, of course, that you can do is get Starlink. We have the Starlink Standard and the Starlink Mini, and I've got a gig fiber pipe to the internet. They're both my backups. The difference is that the Mini's small enough. We've got a thing that we can stick it on the roof of the truck magnetically and drive down the road and utilize that. And anything that works over the internet, including the POC link radios, well, now you can talk to people in your group in that way. By the way, these radios as well, if you're a Survival Dispatch Guardian, this is one of the ways that we send out SDN's notifications, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. Go to survivaldispatch.news, $9.99 a month, $99.99 a year. You get access to all of our encrypted channels. We got about 20 of them that are on my Element server. You get SDN's alerts, go out to these, your email, our Substack, the SDN's channel on our Element server, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once you get beyond some of this stuff and you're looking at what are called HTs, think of them as a walkie-talkie essentially, do not believe the labels. So when you go and you see this Baofeng radio for a song and a dance and it says, oh, it has a 25 to 30 mile radius, you know it doesn't. Especially in an urban environment, you're probably going to see 1.5 miles, 2 miles max out of those walkie-talkies. And the only way you could conceivably get anywhere near 25 miles is typically bouncing off repeaters. Repeaters are not SHTF, comms applicable because you don't control them and the shit may hit the fan and they may be down. So at the end of the day, do not make sure your expectations are set right. If you've gone out and you bought Baofeng radios for pennies and you turn them on, you talk to a family member who's in the yard and you're inside, you are not getting any appreciable difference with those HTs / walkie-talkies. So you need to get that through your head, which means the next thing is, okay, well, you could put like a GMRS mobile radio in your truck or in your home as your base radio. You got to have a big antenna. So any of the frequencies or the bands, I should say, VHF, UHF require direct LOS, line of sight. So myself and Dr. Mike, the way the bird flies, his farm's 25 miles from here, and UHF, VHF will not penetrate solid objects, trees, buildings, or anything like that. I had to go 53 feet high with my antenna to communicate with him over UHF, and he had to go 32 feet high on his end. So your lay of the land is a big deal. If you're in a hilly mountainous area, you may not even be able to do line of sight any tremendous distance. Then you get into shortwave HF, high frequency. For if people's technical skills struggle with a POC link, which is about as easy as it gets in the radio world, asking them to learn how to use ham radios is going to be too heavy of a lift. So at the end of the day, the item for me to you to focus on, make sure you have at least 2 backups to your phone. 3 is 2, 2 is 1, 1 is none, or as JP likes to say, when you're in my world, 50 is 49, 49 is 48. I'm a comms guy, and that's why I speak on it frequently. But that's it for the practical payoff. That's it for the main topic. I've got half a dozen tabs open that I'm going to cover in a kind of like a mini sit rep. Jeff, I know you've got to get going. Randy, you're welcome to stay. It's probably maybe 12, 15 minutes max of stuff that I want to cover, including the fact that one of the greatest Americans of modern times died yesterday and was announced today, and that's Chuck Norris, passed away at 86 years old. So God bless Chuck Norris. He was the epitome of masculinity that we're in dire need of. But before I go any further, Jeff, appreciate your time. Insight per usual. See you on Monday.
Good weekend.
Thanks. Randy, you can stay or go. If you're going to go, that's fine as well. I didn't catch that. You're on mute, Randy.
Well, I still got to cook dinner, but I'll give you another 10 minutes.
We don't have a whole lot left to cover here. Just a couple things that I want to bring up that are important. Okay. So we'll go through this fairly quickly. This weekend will change everything. Watch this unfold hour by hour from the moment markets close. Here's the exact sequence that is about to play out. Hold on a second here. I think there we go. We get Jeff's audio in there. Here's the exact sequence that's about to play out. Context: 13,000 U.S. troops are converging on Karg Island. Iran just launched a wave of 66 missile attacks. 82nd Airborne is deploying. Markets close in hours. And if you remember, I showed you all the map of the resources moving across in real time across the Atlantic. So the markets are shut down. That means the invasion clock starts. And Trump has I call it a proclivity for attacking on weekends, so it doesn't mess the markets up as bad as through the week. But so you've got U.S. forces stop holding back, and that avoids spooking the markets again. Final positioning of the USS Boxer and USS Tripoli complete in the Persian Gulf. Friday night, ground forces land on Karg Island. Iran's oil export terminal goes offline. 90% of Iran's oil revenue cut. Oil markets cannot price this until Monday, but futures will gap overnight. Saturday, Iran's counterstrike hits. They've already run the wave of 66 attacks that I mentioned. Expect another wave like that, probably the biggest one yet. Iran said tourist sites are now targets. Expect incidents in multiple countries. Hezbollah and proxies activated across the Middle East. Gulf Arab states go on emergency war footing. Saturday night, oil futures gap up 15 to 25%. Brent crude already at 120. Add 20%, you're at $144 a barrel. Every shipping company in the world halts Gulf operations. Emergency OPEC meeting called, but they have no spare capacity left. Sunday, the financial panic spreads. Asian markets open first. Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai, all gap down hard. Crypto markets sell off. Bitcoin drops as risk off hits everything. Gold spikes. Everyone rushes to safety assets at once. Emergency calls between G7 finance ministers. Monday open. This is when the average person realizes what happens. U.S. futures open with a gap down. They will not show on the evening news. Energy stocks gap up. Everything else bleeds. Inflation expectations reprice overnight. The Fed is now trapped. They cannot cut with oil at 140 plus. Whew. That's a lot of activity, Randy. I want to hear your response as a Green Beret as far as 13,000 Marines hitting Karg Island on the ground.
Well, you know what I say about the Marines and the Rangers, right? So I wouldn't want to be living on that island right now or be alive when they get there. So I'm just wondering if they have a plan, but like I said, even when we went into Iraq in 2003, it was clear by the time we took Baghdad, there was no plan for after. So, I've said it many times, even about these electric cars, what are we going to do in 20, 30 years when there's tens of millions of them that need to be destroyed? Is there a plan? No, there's no plan. So this isn't any different, but I hope, you know what I mean? Because we've taken Venezuela. We know we have a bunch of oil here. We just need to start processing, using it. I hope they have a plan, because otherwise we're going to be paying $10 a gallon for fuel, at least for a little bit. But I saw somebody make a comparison today, and the truth is, we don't know what Iran was going to hold for the future, but we do know it wasn't any good. And, we're in the middle of it now, so there's really no pulling out of it. There's no unringing this bell. And with all that you just mentioned, man, it's going to be a rough time. And somebody had said earlier, and maybe they're right, that, by May 1st, the grocery store shelves will be empty. And the way that's looking, and when you asked about that next 90 days earlier, it's looking even worse, isn't it?
Well, in that case, and I don't care if it's a shameless plug or whatever, I did find another stick of Wasatch Wagyu.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, this stuff's look how soft this jerky is. I'm addicted to it. Mike Glover's addicted to it. Go to Carnivalt, sign up for a subscription, lock your price in. You'll have the highest quality protein on the shelf, regardless of whether the grid goes down or not, because it's freeze dried. It reconstitutes like 5 to 10 minutes with a little bit of salt and water. And go to wasatchwagyu.com. I'll put all that stuff in the closing video. Tonight's closing video is an epic one. It's 11 minutes long, so brace for it when we get there, which won't be too long. But check this out. This video was sent to me by a family friend. The video was not taken from Riyadh, Yemen, or Aleppo. This is Washington Square Park, New York City at 08:45 this morning. The third world battle cry being blasted from loudspeakers is the same one yelled by every jihadi over the last few months before murdering innocent Americans. It's the same battle cry that preceded the cultural destruction of former pillars of the Western world like London, Luton, Berlin, and Frankfurt. It's what is consuming places like Dearborn and Minneapolis. It's already spread from blue to red, where it can be found in your hometown and even his own. The person who posted this, I believe MAGA Coalition is the only movement capable of preserving America's Christian heritage and upholding the legacy of Western civilization. Unless we pull ourselves together, however, our nation will be potentially turned to ashes. 26 seconds.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, that's it for that shit. I can't listen to that crap any longer. Seriously, that shit drives me
Oh, yeah, I know.
fucking batshit insane. And I know it tweaks you as well, Randy.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Did you happen to catch the article that Khalid and I published on how we have all the laws on the books necessary to get these shitbags out of here? Let me just preface that before you comment by saying, if one of these assholes, if they go to a mosque and the imam at that mosque says you need to, kill America, kill the great Satan, kill Americans, all these sort of things, in other words, promote violence, and those same people who attend and people who may not even attend contribute money, they donate money to that mosque, that is material support of a terrorist act, or a terrorist actor, I should say, and will get you thrown out of the fucking country. If you're naturalized, the laws are on the books. We do not need new laws. There's no paywall on this article. Material support right there. The statute shuts down the pipeline. I'm going to put a link to it. But Randy, is anybody ever going to have the fucking balls to do this?
I don't think it's had the balls. I don't think they have the want to, right? They're getting paid in so many different areas. They're not wanting to make America great again because it doesn't pay them as well. Or they can't still, all that foreign aid is because they can get some of it more. That's why you don't see them pouring any of it into the United States ever. But, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, and, I've a couple of other times, it's what I've said all along. If we would just start enforcing the laws that we have on the books, that would go a long ways to cleaning a lot of this riffraff out. But I think that, the system, certainly the people driving it, who own all the money, who's paying all these folks, don't want that to be. So we are not moving in that direction, although we should be. I don't think it has anything to do with they don't have the guts. They don't have the want to, and they don't have the proper motivation. And as we see with this Save America Act, they don't care how much of the country wants it. Doesn't matter to them. And the fact that we're having to talk about you need an ID to prove you're a citizen to vote, and people have a problem with that, we've already lost. We've already lost.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. So, Randy, how many times, you've been on SDN now for almost 3 years. How many times have we told people, we said it last night, pay attention to what's going on in other Western countries because it's a harbinger of things to come here in America. And we've been preaching for years now saying, watch what's going on in Europe, and they're arresting people and they're imprisoning people for long terms because they said something that hurt somebody's feelings or they said something that offended somebody. Well, I showed a clip, or I shared a clip of this happening in Miami recently. This is not a new video. I want to say this is from probably about 3 months ago. This is in Texas. We're here because of the comments you made online about Israel. A man in Texas shared a video saying local police came to his home to question him over posts critical of Israel.
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the Jewish community. So you got state police, and I think this guy over here is local PD.
So what?
No, I'm saying,
I have a freedom of speech, dude.
Yeah, no, we get that.
I get that.
We got to make sure that you're not.
Do you have a warrant?
No, that's why we're
Okay,
here.
you see that sign? Yeah. So that says no soliciting. What you're doing is basically soliciting. You understand that, right? Yeah. It means you're not welcome here. Okay. Bye.
Good day, gentlemen.
Stay off the lawn, please.
I like this guy. Go ahead and write it down there, trooper. Go ahead and write it down. But that is our problem. It's not over.
No, there's another minute left in this or so.
This is what they're doing, guys. You make comments about the Jews online, they'll fucking show up at your door. This is what they do. This is freedom of speech. This is how much control Israel has over our country. Look at this response. For exercising my freedom of speech online. Wow. What a fucking joke. What a fucking joke. Can't wait to do some auditing of you boys. Bye-bye.
So I'll go ahead and stop there. Randy, I don't give a shit who's the topic. I don't care if it's the Zionist Jews, the Hamas shitheads, whoever. First Amendment's absolute when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see what he said online, if he was spreading some sort of violence or hate, but the reality is we have freedom of speech in this country, and whether we like it or not, because there are plenty of people that say shit all day long that I don't like, but there's really nothing you can do about it. Unless they are, going to extremes and pushing some sort of violence or violent act, or, if you threaten the president, you can't do that. But, him talking about another country, even Israel, whether he's right or not, doesn't really matter. It's his prerogative. If he wants to put that on his wall, I don't see why the law enforcement, you've got a state trooper, you got a local cop, and we're assuming that other guy was also a state cop. I think it said state on his vest, didn't it?
Yeah.
So sending 3 people out to his house to ask him about a comment he made on Facebook seems a bit extreme to me, and certainly even in Texas. But as we know, we've got a problem. I know that some people still support Governor Abbott, but I think he needs to go. He's definitely a puppet for the global elites, and he hasn't been good for Texas. You know, we talked about all the mosques that have been built here. So the reality, this thing is cooking up on all of us. And, you know, I'm not sure what we need to do to turn that back, the tide back the other way. You know, I mean, this seems very extreme. And if you hadn't showed me it was right here in Texas, I would have had a hard time believing you, but that definitely was.
Yeah, and more of this is coming. And JP makes a comment. This is why I'm a guardian on Element. Our Element Matrix server, it's my server. And, you know, coming from high-tech network and systems engineer, it is locked down hard. We've had all kinds of attacks. People trying to attack my server, DDoS attacks, distributed denial service attacks. But the gist of what JP is saying here is that we have freedom of speech on my server. So if you want to say something bad about somebody that you don't care for, you might catch some flack from somebody else, but nobody's monitoring it and it's going to show up at your doorstep. So this one here is the note from the family, Chuck Norris's family, by the way. Chuck Norris' family released a statement after the legend passed away at 86. He was in Hawaii and got sick and was rushed to a hospital. And then again, they didn't announce his death until today, but it's with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday morning. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace. He lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Through his work, discipline, and kindness, he inspired millions around the world and left a lasting impact on so many lives. This is the most recent video of Chuck Norris on his feed, noted March the 10th, so 10 days ago, 9 days before he died. As we grieve this loss, we kindly ask for privacy for our family during this time. Thank you for loving him with us.
I don't age. I level up.
I
don't age. I level up.
So I don't know what struck him, Randy, but I mean, it's a sad day when, you know, Chuck Norris dies, but I don't know if you want to add to that or not.
Well, I mean, you know, obviously a legend. It's unfortunate, but, you know, Father Time wins every time. None of us, it doesn't matter who you are or how big of a legend you are, none of us get out here alive, folks. And at the end of the day, this is where we have to face our morality and our limitations. Even Chuck Norris is now gone.
Yep, true story, unfortunately. I just wanted to show you all, this is our Substack, survivaldispatch.news. And if you sign up as a Guardian, $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year, you get 2 months for free. You get full access to everything that's on our Substack. There's a paywall that's typically about halfway through each daily sit rep. You get the daily SDN Intel alerts, which is a behind-the-scenes look at the podcast that's coming that night. You get the SDN's alerts. You get $370 worth of survival e-magazines. You get fellowship. You get the fellowship of being part of the Guardian community on the server that I previously mentioned. If you go to carnivault.com and you click on their shop page and you scroll partway down, you'll see 3 subscriptions: Off-Grid, Bug Out, SHTF. There are other subscriptions for beef only, but these 3 here, they start at $99 a month, $149, $499. If you purchase any of those, if you sign up for any of those subscriptions, just forward your receipt each month to support@survivaldispatch.com, and you'll have a free Guardians membership as long as you stay signed up with them. The other option is go to Wasatch Wagyu, and these are Greg's own cattle. And you can buy stuff that's not on subscription at Carnival and Wasatch Wagyu, but I'm just covering this so that you guys could get a free Guardians membership. They've got 3 tiers that goes from $79 to $99 to $199. These guys, because this is $100 per pound beef, it's way out of my price range. So a 4-pound tomahawk's $400. This is the highest quality, you know, Wagyu that you can possibly get. These are $6 a piece regular. If you sign up for the big package here, it's $3.70. So whatever that is, 45% off by going to the largest subscription. So you can get a major break on the price by signing up for a subscription. And same thing, just forward your monthly receipt. Just forward your monthly receipt to support survivaldispatch.com, and we'll keep your free membership rolling. David asked, where do you get the business license radio for the Motorola? So business class license is not tied to any particular brand. I work with buy2aradio.com. You can tell them that Survival Dispatch sent you. I want to say it's about $500 for the business class license, number one. And they prepare it and submit it for you to make sure that everything goes well. When it gets approved, it takes about 10 business days. The FCC gives them the frequencies for your radios. You buy the radios from Buy2A Radios. They program them. Depending on the radios, Motorola, Kenwood, etc. Sometimes the software, I've seen it as high as $20,000 to buy the software. So it's not something where you program yourselves with Chirp, like a Baofeng or anything like that. It's a little bit of a process, but not too bad. And those 5 channels or frequencies that you get have a 50-mile radius. And the way I've got things set up with a 53-foot antenna and a Motorola base station in addition to the HT that I showed, we can easily cover the entire 50 miles. If we're traveling in a convoy, I take the mobile from here, put it in the truck. Plus, I've got my HT as well. That should address that. That's it for tonight for the main topic and the sit rep. I'm going to be back Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time with the Sea Heaven Show. It's my personal podcast. It only goes out to X. So my handle there is @survivalreport. And my Substack, personal Substack, Sea Heaven. So letter C, word heaven. That's my last name, HEAVEN.substack.com. And the reason it only goes to X and Substack is because I cover a bunch of zany stuff and whatnot that would result instant deplatforming on CommieTube and other woke platforms. Monday night, we're going to resume the Long War series with the border to interior escalating homeland threat environment as global conflict spills into domestic security. And by the way, we've only got 20 episodes left in the Long War series, but I want to thank everybody who supports Survival Dispatch News, whether it be Carnival, Wasatch Wagyu, CCW Safe, plus all y'all who are guardians. It's very much appreciated. And by the way, we don't get affiliate income from Wasatch Wagyu or Carnival. They help us with a monthly stipend to defer some pretty significant expenses, just recurring expenses, about $15,000 a month, software, hosting fees, ClearStar subscription to make sure we background check everybody who signs up as a guardian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's it, Randy. I don't think we.
I wanted to point out, do something diff. So he's going to change his name to do some BFE. I love it.
So somebody in the live chat, let the people who don't know what BFE is give them a definition. Khalid was going to be with us tonight, but again, Pakistan's a third world country. Major blackouts, power blackouts there today. So he was unable to make it. Don't forget Tuesday night, by the way, Terry Strada coming on from 911families.org that are suing Saudi Arabia. The case is now proceeding. It's going to be a barn burner of an episode, but tell you what, between now and Sunday night, do me a favor, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Y'all are going to love the closing video, but it is entirely possible that they will end the stream before it entirely plays because it's absolutely a copyright infringement. If they let us play the whole 11-minute video, nobody else is going to see it except for you guys, because I have to delete it when the video's done. Otherwise, they'll give us a whole copyright spiel and potentially a strike and blah, 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 blah. So enjoy that closing video. But that's it, Randy. God bless our law enforcement officers. God bless our military. God bless America.
God bless America. Love you guys. See you on Monday.
If you're a Gen Xer or a baby boomer, you're going to love this. There's some good shit coming up right here.